Have you ever found yourself just utterly, not, from a long day's work, but just from being around certain...
Oh, absolutely. It's that deep, kind of invisible drain.
Exactly. Our sources actually call it soul exhaustion. It's this profound weariness that just settles in, makes everything feel heavy.
It really does.
So today we're doing a deep dive into navigating these draining relationships. We'll explore how some dynamics can silently siphon off our energy, challenge our peace, and maybe subtly steer us away from who we really are.
We've got some great sources for this. A real mix: academic research, philosophical ideas, and some very practical, eye-opening stuff.
Yeah, including some incisive material from the YouTube channel Queen on how to ignore people. Quite direct.
Right. The goal here really is to give you the clarity, the tools, maybe, to spot these patterns.
Understand where they come from.
And crucially, how to protect your own energy, how to cultivate connections that actually nourish.
Think of it as a guide to becoming the undeniable protagonist of your own story again. Let's start unpacking this.
It's striking, isn't it, how universal that feeling of soul exhaustion is. The sources really hammer home that it's depletion not from what you do, but from who you've been around.
That's such a critical distinction. It often goes completely unacknowledged.
Yeah.
One of our sources talks about this moment, a Tuesday morning, staring at a crisis text from an old college roommate, Amelia.
Ah, yes, Amelia.
Right, who had somehow managed to turn every single aspect of her life into an emergency. And the author realized, I've become a supporting character in everyone else's drama.
Oof, that hits hard.
Yeah, she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt like the lead in her own life. That feeling, living someone else's script, is just so common, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it really highlights our vulnerability as humans. We are wired for connection, fundamentally social animals. But as the sources point out, maybe no ancient wisdom really prepared us for when that social need becomes, a prison of other people's making.
Wow, a prison. That's strong wording.
It is. And Dr. David McClelland's research at Harvard is pretty eye-opening here. He suggested the people we habitually associate with determine as much as 95% of our success or failure.
Wait, 95%? Seriously? That sounds huge.
It is huge. And it's not just about conscious influence or advice. It's deeper. It's about emotional contagion and mirror neurons literally rewiring our internal landscape.
Okay, 95%. That's staggering. So what does that actually mean for us day to day? How do these things, emotional contagion, mirror neurons, how do they actually rewire us?
Well, think about it simply. You see someone yawn, right, too, and suddenly you feel a yawn coming on.
It happens all the time.
That's your mirror neurons at work. Your brain is mimicking what it observed. Now, apply that to emotions. Emotional contagion means if you're constantly around someone operating from scarcity, from fear,
you start feeling it too.
Your own brain starts prioritizing those same neural pathways.
Yeah.
You literally start seeing danger where maybe before you saw possibility. Or if you're always around someone whose life is just constant catastrophe,
your own stress levels go up.
Exactly. Your own emotional thermostat gets completely recalibrated. You become more prone to anxiety, to stress. It's not a weakness, understand. It's a biological response to your environment.
So it's like a literal neurological hijacking if we're not careful.
Pretty much, yeah.
And this brings us to something profound, something Carl Jung talked about with the shadow self. What does the irritation we feel towards others, what does that actually reveal about us?
Jung. He suggested that everything that really gets under our skin about other people, it can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves, of our own shadow, those parts of us we deny or repress or just haven't dealt with.
So like the example in the source, when Sarah's latest crisis made the author's stomach...
Right. Was it really just about Sarah's need for attention? Or did it also reflect maybe the author's own struggle to say no? Or maybe even a sort of addiction to being needed? It forces us to ask. What does this pattern, this irritation, tell you about your own tendency, your own unmet?
That's a powerful mirror and, yeah, often uncomfortable to look in. Okay, so building on that, our sources do a brilliant job decoding specific draining dynamics. They give us these distinct archetypes. We could maybe group them into, say, 3 main categories, starting with those who drain us through their constant, insatiable...
Exactly. Let's talk first about those who create endless drama, or maybe those who just cannot be pleased. We've all encountered people like Marcus from the sources.
The charismatic crisis magnet.
Right. Incredibly charismatic, makes their problem seem so urgent, so noble. Helping them feels like you're part of something important. But then, life with Marcus quickly becomes, as the source puts it, like a Shakespeare play. All grand gesture, constant crises, but ultimately endless, recursive, and exhausting.
You end up as just a character actor in their show, making supportive noises maybe, but feeling completely depleted inside.
Yeah. And the sources are clear. These individuals aren't necessarily malicious or evil. Often they're described as empty.
Empty.
Trying to fill a void inside themselves with other people's vitality, their energy, their attention.
Where does that emptiness come from?
Well, a key insight here is that it often stems from deep wound. Many drama kings or queens grew up in environments where, frankly, crisis was the only reliable way to get attention or love.
So it's a survival mechanism.
Exactly. A survival mechanism that just outlived its usefulness. They need that audience participation, not just a listening ear. And closely related to this, you have the folks who are constitutionally incapable of being pleased.
The bottomless bucket, as one father called it. Sources.
That's the one. Think of an Aunt Helen who finds fault with every single type of weather. Or, a supervisor who just constantly moves the goalpost no matter what you do.
That feels like a very distinct kind of drain. What's the mechanism there, that perpetual dissatisfaction?
Well, it's usually not about actually having high standards. It's more like a fundamental dissatisfaction that's being projected out. The philosopher Kierkegaard wrote about existential despair, right? This deep, unfillable void within.
So the unpleasable person.
Our sources suggest they're often locked in that kind of internal struggle. They project their inner dissatisfaction onto everything. Everyone. Their inability to be pleased becomes like a fortress, protecting them from vulnerability.
And the cost for us.
The cost of trying to please them isn't just exhaustion. It's the slow erosion of your own standards, your own sense of self. You become like a shapeshift, constantly trying to morph into something that fits a space designed to remain empty.
Wow. That sounds truly soul-crushing. Okay, so moving from those who constantly demand, let's talk about those who undermine our growth or our clarity. Maybe more. This brings us to the naysayer and the manipulator.
Yeah, these dynamics can be more insidious, harder to spot sometimes. The naysayer, that's the friend who tells you why any dream you have is impossible. Not just challenging, but impossible.
Right, like the source author mentioning wanting to write a book, and the friend immediately pulls out statistics about publishing failure.
Exactly. These individuals are, as Nietzsche might say, evangelists of the last man mentality. They essentially fear and resist growth, especially in others, because it reminds them of their own unpursued possibilities, maybe their own buried dream. Their negativity is often a defense mechanism against their own regret. They'll present partial truths. Yes, writing a book is hard, but frame them as the complete story, making difficulty mean impossibility rather than a challenge worth taking on.
And then there's the manipulator. The shadow player operates with even more subtlety, often disguised as care or love.
Oh, definitely. The example of Laura, the colleague using sighs and talking about how overwhelmed she was to guilt trip the author into helping. That's so relatable.
Yeah, I think we've all encountered a Laura.
Absolutely. Eric Fromm, the psychoanalyst, wrote about symbiotic relationships where one person feeds off another, but subtly reframes that exploitation as, mutual support or love.
Masters of spin.
Total masters of emotional alchemy, transforming your guilt into their entitlement or your desire to help into an unspoken burden. And the damage they inflict is significant, often leading to gaslight.
That insidious tactic where someone makes you doubt your own reality, your own perceptions.
Precisely. And a key insight here, often quite sad actually, is that manipulators frequently never learned how to ask directly for what they need. So they resort to these indirect, damaging roundabout tactics.
What a tragic cycle for everyone involved. Okay, let's move to our third category. Those who try to keep us stuck in the past, or maybe just refusing to let go of our mistake. This includes the prison of past selves and the unforgiving.
Yeah, these are particularly painful because they often come from people really close to us, family, old friends. The prison of past self that refers to those who insist on seeing you as, say, chapter 3 of your life, even when you're well into chapter 15.
Like the parent who still introduces their grown child as the shy one, despite years of conflict.
Exactly that. Or the friend who only wants to reminisce about your wild college days when you're trying to build a stable career.
What's at the heart of that resistance to who you are now?
Often, our sources suggest they have an investment in your stasis, your growth, your change. It challenges their own choices, maybe their choice to remain unchanged.
Now they create these museums of memory.
Perfectly put. Museums where everything stays as it was. Your evolution makes them uncomfortable. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's the direct opposite of Jung's idea of individuation, that lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. Not just who others expect or remember you.
And the final archetype in this group, the unforgiving.
The perpetual judge. The sources describe someone like David, who kept this detailed mental catalog of every single mistake the author ever made.
And weaponized them.
Exactly. Weaponizing them in completely unrelated conflicts, sometimes years after the event. Bringing up that one time you were late, during an argument about finances, that kind of thing.
That sounds utterly exhausting to be around. What drives that inability to let go, especially when the issue might be ancient history?
Well, the inability to forgive others is often, and this is crucial, rooted in a deep fear of vulnerability. And very often, it reflects an inability to forgive themselves. They can't let wounds become scars. They're stuck replaying the moment of hurt over and over. And this dynamic forces us to ask ourselves a tough question, too. Are you maybe holding others to impossible standards because you hold yourself to that same brutal, unforgiving account?
Oof, that's a lot to process. It sounds like a really complex, tangled web of human interaction. But okay, this deep dive isn't just about diagnosing the problems, right? It's about solutions.
Absolutely.
And our sources offer some really powerful tools for transformation. They call it the alchemy of boundaries. And this isn't about building walls to isolate yourself.
No, not at all. It's about building doors. Doors that you control, doors you can choose to open or choose to close when necessary.
That's a great image. Doors, not walls.
And real love, the sources emphasize, actually requires boundaries. It demands the strength sometimes to say, look, I love you, and I cannot do this particular thing, or I cannot participate in this dynamic.
It connects to that idea of idiot compassion, doesn't it? From Pema Chodron.
Exactly. Idiot compassion is when we give people what they want more attention for their drama, maybe enabling their avoidance instead of what they might actually need, which could be facing consequences or finding their own strength.
So true compassion sometimes looks like stepping back.
Paradoxically, yeah. And it's really important to remember, setting boundaries often feels like cruelty at first. To you, and definitely to the other person. They will likely be tested. People will push against them.
But that's a sign.
That's a sign they're necessary. It's confirmation you're doing something right for your own well-being, rebalancing an unhealthy dynamic.
Okay, so boundaries are... And then comes something truly transformative, which the sources call the mirror's gift and shadow work. This idea that difficult people are often reflecting something back at us.
Yes, this is where it gets really deep and potentially life-changing. The sources highlight that these people who trigger us the most, they're often acting as powerful mirrors, reflecting aspects of ourselves we haven't integrated, acknowledged, or maybe even noticed.
So back to Sarah, the crisis-addicted friend.
Her constant neediness showed the source author her own addiction to being needed. The naysayer friend reflected her own inner critic, the voice telling her she couldn't succeed. The unforgiving friend mirrored her own harsh self-judgment. This shadow work, as Jung called it, it's about reclaiming and integrating these rejected or denied parts of ourselves. The people who drive us craziest aren't just external annoyances. They're often pointing directly at our own unhealed wounds, our own shadow, offering this invaluable, if uncomfortable, opportunity for growth.
So we move from anger
to a deeper understanding of ourselves. It's humbling, definitely, but also profoundly liberating when you start to see it that way.
And this all ties back to what our sources call the economy of energy. This idea that every single relationship is an energy.
Right. Some people, some interactions leave you feeling energized, inspired, lighter. Others leave you feeling drained, heavy, depleted. It's really about conscious stewardship of your emotional, mental, even spiritual energy.
Treating it like a finite resource, like money almost.
Exactly. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote about guarding your inner citadel, protecting your peace, your clarity from external disturbance. A very practical tool here is the energy.
How does that work?
Simply checking in with yourself after interactions. Ask yourself, okay, how do I feel right now? Energized or drained? Lighter or heavier? This isn't about judging the other person, not labeling them as bad. It's about cultivating self-awareness, understanding your own energetic needs and responses.
Which leads us to maybe the hardest tool for many people, especially, people pleasers.
Yes.
The sacred number, no.
The sources call it the guardian of yes. And it is so hard for so many of us. But a clean no, delivered with kindness perhaps, but without excessive apology or justification, is actually far kinder in the long run.
Kinder than what?
Than a reluctant, resentful yes that's born purely out of obligation or guilt. That just breeds resentment.
Right. A clean no creates clarity.
It does, for you and for the other person too. It allows them to move on and find help or resources elsewhere, if needed. It's not rejection, it's choice. It's wise stewardship of your incredibly precious time, energy, and attention. We often operate under this mirage of obligation, mistaking others' expectations or even just their desires for our actual duty.
And that requires, as put it, the courage to disappoint, and maybe something called loving detachment.
Yes, and this can feel really counterintuitive. The sources talk about a kind of ethical selfishness.
Ethical selfishness? How does that work?
It's not about disregarding others or being callous. It's about truly recognize that you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your well-beings, your energy, your peace, they aren't luxury. They are absolute necessities if you genuinely want to be present, helpful, and loving to others in a sustainable way.
So their disappointment when you set a necessary boundary
is not your emergency to fix. You can empathize, you can understand, but you don't have to absorb it or change your boundary because of it. And this is where the Dalai Lama's concept of wise compassion comes in, loving someone, caring for them, while remaining unattached to their choices, their dramas, their reactions.
It's like a purification of love.
Exactly. Removing the codependency, the enmeshment.
Yeah.
And sometimes, paradoxically, your absence from their drama, your refusal to play the old role, can actually be the catalyst they need for their own growth. It can be a wake-up call. Like Marcus, the drama king in The Source, when his audience finally departed, he eventually had to face himself.
That shift in perspective, thinking about absence as a potential gift, is really powerful. It feels like this whole journey ultimately is about reclaiming getting back to yourself.
That's the core of it. When you start setting those boundaries, prioritizing your energy, there might be a period of silence, fewer crisis calls, fewer demands. And that silence can initially feel like loneliness.
Which can be.
Sure. But our sources remind us that loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's often about being disconnected yourself. And that silence, it can transform into space. Space to finally hear your own thoughts, your own rhythms, your own desire, your own story trying to emerge.
I love that Rilke quote the sources mention.
Oh, the dragons and princesses?
Yes. Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act just once with beauty and courage.
It's beautiful, isn't it? The dragon of loneliness, or maybe the dragon of difficult relationship, reveals itself as the princess of selfhood, just waiting for you to claim her, to meet yourself fully. And when you start doing that, your entire relational world begins to shift.
It's like tending a garden. The sources talk about the ecology of relationship. If your social circle is overrun with invasive species, the energy vampires, the drama queen, there's just no room, no sunlight for healthier connect grow.
Exactly. So clearing those weeds, setting those boundaries, it creates fertile ground. It makes space for the flowers, for new people, or maybe deeper connections with existing people who energize you, who celebrate you, who genuinely see you.
And it's not magic.
Not at all. It's practical psychology. When you reclaim your energy, when you step out of those draining dynamics, you naturally start attracting different kinds of people who are also doing their own work, who value growth, respect, mutual support.
And you discover this community of growth.
Yes, people committed to taking responsibility, respecting boundaries, fostering genuine connection. And the sources make a great point. These people were likely always there. You just couldn't see them clearly through all the static and noise of this drama and dysfunction you were caught up in.
So it leads to this fascinating paradox. Difficult people can actually become the gift of difficult.
Right. They become unintentional teachers. They reveal our weak spots, the flimsy boundaries, the underdeveloped sense of self, the parts of our shadow we haven't owned. They basically force us to grow stronger, clearer, more authentic.
It doesn't mean we should seek out toxic situations.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But it means we can look back at past experiences and transform them, turn wounds into wisdom. See those difficult people, perhaps with time and distance, as strange angels or difficult gifts that ultimately propelled our evolution.
And the ultimate goal is what the sources call energetic sovereignty.
Yes, maintaining your own frequency, your own inner state, regardless of the chaos or negativity that might be swirling around you externally. The practice of those regular energy check-ins becomes vital. Asking yourself, okay, is this feeling mine? Or is it theirs? What do I need right now to return to my own authentic frequency, my own center?
And remembering Viktor Frankl's wisdom about that sacred.
That tiny space between stimulus as someone's demanding text, maybe, and your response. That pause is where your choice lives. Reclaiming that pause, using it consciously, means reclaiming your power to choose your response. And in that conscious choice lies your growth, your peace, and ultimately, your freedom.
So we've covered a lot today. We've explored how to identify these draining relationship patterns, their really profound impact on our energy and self-worth, and crucially, these powerful tools from clear boundaries and energy hygiene to deep shadow work and that sacred, sometimes difficult no that can empower us to completely transform our relational landscape.
In this deep dive, it's really about recognizing that authentic connection, true friendship, it's still shine. It's still profoundly worth seeking, cherishing, and protecting.
Absolutely. So as you reflect on your own relationships, maybe consider this. What dreams have you quietly put on hold? What possibilities have you maybe buried because you've been too busy, too exhausted, playing that supporting character role in someone else's ongoing drama?
That's the question, isn't it?
What would become possible in your one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver put it? What could open up if you truly gathered the courage to set the boundaries? You know, deep down, you need to set. If you decided right now to become the undisputed author of your own story.
The path forward, it might have twists and turns. It's not always easy.
No, but every small step, every boundary honored, every no spoken with clarity and kindness, even if it's uncomfortable, it's a victory. It's a step towards a life filled with the kind of authentic connections that truly nourish and elevate the magnificent being you already are.